right, let's jump right into today's explainer, because we've got an incredibly packed agenda. I mean, we're unpacking everything from a catastrophic lumber mill explosion to, get this, a bizarre traffic jam caused entirely by empty driverless cars. The world's looking pretty chaotic right now, right? So my goal today is to help you cut through the noise and make sense of it all. Here's how we're going to break it down. First up, disasters and extreme weather. Then we'll shift over to global security and diplomacy. After that, we're unpacking the controversy around a new DOJ settlement. We'll also cover some wild hazards and tech glitches, and then finally wrap up with a really heartwarming 22-year reunion. Okay, so Section 1, disasters and extreme weather. Let's look at the immediate crises facing the country right now, starting out in a remote area of Maine. The silo just exploded. Just imagine hearing that. That chilling eyewitness quote gives us a real glimpse into the apocalyptic scene at the Robbins Lumber Mill in Searsmont, Maine. Late today, a massive explosion and fire triggered what authorities immediately had to declare a mass casualty incident. Faced with fiercely burning buildings and a collapsing roof, literally every single fire department in the county had to rush to the scene. The fire was just so massive it completely overwhelmed the initial crews. And tragically, this devastating event left one firefighter dead and at least 10 other people injured, with several of them in critical condition. It's just a heartbreaking reminder of the incredible risks our first responders face every single day. Meanwhile, Mother Nature is throwing a tantrum from coast to coast. Down in the Texas Panhandle, bone-dry conditions and howling winds caused the Hungate fire to just explode. It burned over 14,000 acres and completely wiped out a railroad trestle. At the exact same time, the Midwest is bracing for days of severe storms. Iowa is actually facing a level 3 out of 5 risk for large hail and tornadoes. And if that wasn't enough, there's a sweltering heat wave pushing 90-degree temps straight toward New York. It's an absolute coast-to-coast weather crisis. Moving on to Section 2, Global Security and Diplomacy. Let's see what's dominating the highest levels of government right now. Okay, wrap your head around this number, 20. That's the number of terror attacks allegedly orchestrated across Europe and Canada in just 3 short months. And the person accused of coordinating all this? Mohammed Asadi, an Iraqi national who is currently in U.S. custody. The federal allegations here are absolutely breathtaking. Asadi is linked to coordinating a stabbing in London, an attempted bank arson in Amsterdam, a synagogue firebombing in North Macedonia, and plotting even more attacks right here in the U.S., targeting places like New York, Arizona, and California. But what's his defense? Asadi claims he's simply a political prisoner of war. He says he's being persecuted because of his ties to the late Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. This is a massive, incredibly complex global terrorism case, and it's playing out right in front of us. Now, over in Asia, President Trump's recent VIP summit in China gave us a real mixed bag of outcomes. It was basically a high-wire diplomatic act. On one hand, you had trade commitments. China agreed to buy soybeans and 200 Boeing planes. That's a big deal. But on the flip side, a very stern warning from President Xi Jinping. He cautioned that U.S.-China relations could enter a, quote, very dangerous situation if the U.S. interferes with China's goals regarding Taiwan. And speaking of diplomatic tension, things are heating up closer to home as the U.S. prepares to potentially indict former Cuban President Raul Castro as early as next week. This all stems from the tragic 1996 shoot-down of planes operated by the humanitarian group Brothers to the Rescue. It really shows you how a decades-old geopolitical conflict can just suddenly flare right back to the top of the news cycle. All right, shifting gears to domestic politics with Section 3, the DOJ settlement controversy. We're looking at a truly unprecedented legal maneuver here. So $1.7 billion. That massive figure is the size of a proposed fund that President Trump is poised to create. And how's he getting there? By settling a $10 billion lawsuit he originally brought against the IRS back in his early term over leaked tax returns. Now, as you might guess, this proposal has sparked a fierce debate. The plan is to use that $1.7 billion to compensate allies who claim they were mistreated by what the president calls a weaponized Biden Justice Department, which could potentially include individuals involved in January 6th. But the pushback is intense. Democratic lawmakers are loudly calling this a taxpayer-financed political slush fund and a complete grift. So how would this actually work? Well, the fund would be run by a commission. But here's the catch. The commission members could be fired by the president at any time. Plus, they aren't even required to disclose how they operate or make their decisions. The public reaction has been swift to say the least, with figures like the former leader of the Proud Boys already celebrating the proposal online. It is definitely an unprecedented situation to see an American president essentially settling with his own administration. Let's move on to Section 4, Hazards and Tech Glitches. We've got some jarring local hazards and a very bizarre tech story today. Today was the stupidest decision you've ever made. Those were the furious words a state trooper delivered to a mother in Arkansas. She actually led police on a high-speed chase that ended in a terrible rollover crash. Miraculously, her toddler survived unhurt. The kid literally climbed out of the wreckage and ran into the trooper's arms. If you see the video of that car flipping, you absolutely understand the trooper's fury. It's just been a chaotic day across the board. In a quick rapid fire of other hazards, an American Airlines flight was evacuated on the tarmac in Kansas City due to cabin smoke. Thankfully, all 76 people aboard got out with 0 injuries. Over in Ohio, a doorbell camera captured a small plane crashing right into a home. Sadly, 2 people on the plane died, but the family inside somehow managed to escape safely. On the health front, good news, the CDC confirmed 0 Americans actually contracted hantavirus from that recent cruise ship scare. And in legal news, a judge declared a mistrial in the Harvey Weinstein rape trial in Manhattan after the jury deadlocked. Talk about an unpredictable news cycle, right?
Okay, let's lighten the mood just a bit. I have to ask you this highly unusual question about modern tech. What happens when 50 driverless cars get confused in an Atlanta neighborhood?
While total chaos, apparently. Dozens of completely empty Waymo robotaxis continuously circled a residential cul-de-sac, causing a massive, entirely driverless traffic jam. Waymo says they've addressed the routing issue now, but not before the poor neighbors had to watch 50 empty cars endlessly clogging their street, awkwardly trying to do multi-point turns at all hours of the day. It is the perfect, albeit totally frustrating, example of the growing pains of our automated future.
Finally, Section 5, a 22-year reunion. Let's wrap up with a story that brings some much-needed humanity to today's news.
This is a relationship that proves, like Chloe beautifully put it, that friends can turn into family. This whole thing started in a moment of sheer panic back in 2004 when Colorado Springs firefighter Alan Kent arrived at a home just in the nick of time to deliver baby Chloe. After that, they formed this unbreakable bond. Every single year, from age 4 all the way to 15, Chloe went back to that fire station to celebrate her birthday with Alan. And now, flash forward to 2026, the story culminates with the retired Alan Kent traveling 600 miles to Phoenix to cheer on Chloe at her college graduation. It's just a stunning reminder of the lifelong impact one person can have. So, as we wrap up today's Explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. With all of these complex global and local events swirling around us, from massive weather fronts and international terror plots, to unprecedented presidential funds, right down to empty robot cars swarming a cul-de-sac, how are you navigating this constant flood of information? How do you actually filter out what truly matters? Take a moment today to think about your own information diet and how you process this rapidly changing world. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack the noise, and as always, keep asking questions.